Chapter 7. Ashes of the Forgotten. The fire didn't crackle, it whispered. No one noticed at first. They were too busy laughing, drinking, and trying to one-up each other with terrible ghost stories. It was their first night in the clearing, miles off the trail, surrounded by nothing but dense Oregon forest and a ceiling of stars. The kind of place that felt untouched by anything modern, anything known. And the fire was perfect. No smoke, no sputter, just steady orange light, hot and hungry, rising higher than it should have for the size of the logs. They didn't ask why. 6 friends, 3 tents, and 1 long weekend away from phones, screens, and responsibility. They'd found the clearing by accident. It wasn't on any map, no markers, no trail. Just a sunken patch of land ringed by leaning trees and soft moss. It felt like a secret, hidden, sacred, but also welcoming. Too welcoming. Lena built the fire in the center of the clearing, a perfect circle of stones. Dead dry wood, she said, old pine, should burn clean and fast. Benji filmed her as she worked. "Tell the viewers what you're doing," he grinned. "There are no viewers, Benji," Travis said, tossing kindling into the pile. "But if there were, they'd be thrilled by this cutting-edge pile of sticks content." Omar leaned against a log. "Leave her alone. Fire building is an art." "No, it's a ritual," Jess said, not smiling. Everyone looked at her. She shrugged. "Old belief. Fires are openings. You build one wrong in the wrong place. You let things in." Marcy raised her beer. "To letting things in." They laughed. They lit the fire. It burned hot and fast. The first whisper came an hour later. Benji was reviewing footage on his phone, volume low, earbuds in. He frowned and rewound the clip of Lena starting the fire. He could hear her voice, Travis cracking jokes, and underneath it, another voice, soft, breathy. "No fire here, no fire here." He took the buds out and turned toward the fire. It flared as he looked. Just a gust, he thought. But it didn't sway the trees, didn't touch their tents. Only the fire moved. It leaned toward him, like it was listening. Benji slid his phone into his pocket and said nothing. After dinner, they sat around the fire telling stories. Marcy went first, spinning a ridiculous yarn about a haunted hitchhiker who turned out to be a government experiment. Omar scoffed. Too many Reddit threads, not enough facts. Travis launched into a tale about a haunted hunting cabin he'd definitely visited as a kid. Benji, distracted, just passed. Jess said she didn't tell stories. And Lena? Lena stared into the fire, quiet, like she was hearing something no one else could. Eventually she murmured, "Did anyone see the strange symbols on the stones when we built the ring?" Everyone turned to look. The stones forming the fire pit glowed faintly orange now, lit by the flames. But beneath the soot and moss, faint carvings could still be seen. Circles within circles, eye shapes, spirals. "Just natural erosion," Travis said too quickly. "They look burned in," Jess said, "like they've been through fire before." "Maybe we weren't the first campers here," Omar offered. But no one liked that thought. That night, Benji couldn't sleep. He kept hearing crackling. Not from the fire, from the trees. It sounded like someone walking barefoot over dry twigs, slow, careful, deliberate. He unzipped his tent. The fire was still burning, still whispering. The flames pulsed softly like a heartbeat. He walked to the edge of the clearing and turned on his camera. As he panned across the firelight, he saw movement, something just past the tree line. He zoomed in, paused. Framed between 2 trees was a figure, dark, still, not watching the camp, watching the fire. Benji lowered the camera. When he looked again, the figure was gone. At 3:12 a.m., Marcy sat up suddenly in her tent, heart pounding. She'd been dreaming of smoke, thick, black, pouring from her mouth, her nose, her eyes. In the dream, she couldn't scream. In the dream, she saw a face through the fire, gray skin, hollow eyes, mouth filled with ash. She unzipped her tent and gagged. The smell of burning hair was everywhere. The fire still burned, but it was smaller now, more concentrated, and it made no sound at all, like it was holding its breath. By morning, the mood had shifted. No one said anything at first. Benji had bags under his eyes. Marcy drank her instant coffee in silence. Jess sat beside Lena, who hadn't moved from the fire. She was poking at the coals with a stick, watching how the ash moved. "How long did the fire burn?" she asked softly. Omar checked his watch. "All night." "No wood left," Lena said. "But it's still hot. Still alive." Travis clapped his hands together. "Okay, group hike. Time to shake off the spooky crap." "Let's stay close," Jess said. "Obviously," he muttered, shouldering his pack. As they moved toward the trail, Benji paused. He turned and pointed his camera back at the fire ring. The coals pulsed, and one of the stones cracked. Just a hairline fracture, but from it, black ash began to leak, slowly rising into the air like reverse snowfall. Benji didn't mention it. He just hit record. They hiked for 3 hours, never found the trail. Every direction looked the same. No markers, no blazes, just trees. Marcy threw her water bottle at a stump. "We're lost, Travis." "I followed the compass. It's not working," Benji snapped, showing his screen. The compass app spun in circles. Omar sat down and pulled a pack of jerky from his bag. "Let's stop, eat, and head back to the clearing. Regroup." "Back to the fire?" Jess asked. "I don't think it wants us to leave." Benji looked at her. "What do you mean, it?" Jess's eyes didn't leave the trees. "I mean the thing that was watching us last night, the thing that spoke through the fire." No one laughed. When they returned, the fire was burning again. No one had lit it. No one had added wood. It sat in the center of the ring, small and silent, but alive. And now the symbols on the stones were glowing, not from heat, from within. A soft orange light like molten glass under skin. Lena was kneeling beside it. She hadn't moved since they left. "Lena?" Travis asked carefully. She looked up slowly. Ash streaked her face. Her eyes were glassy, reflecting the fire in perfect symmetry. "I heard them," she whispered. "They're beneath us." "Who?" Marcy asked. "The Forgotten." Lena's voice was soft, but the words cut through the silence like splinters of glass. "They're beneath us," she said again, stroking ash into the dirt with the tip of her finger. "They remember. They want their names back." Omar stepped forward slowly. "Lena, you've been sitting here all day. You didn't eat. You didn't drink. Let's get you out of the sun." She didn't look up. "It's not the sun. It's them." The coals behind her pulsed again. No wind, no fuel, just motion like a breath drawn deep and slow. Jess crouched beside her. "Lena, please, come with us." Lena's eyes snapped up, and her face was covered in soot. Not just streaked, covered. Her skin looked cracked and scorched, like dry earth. But she wasn't burned. She smiled. "It's beautiful, Jess," she said dreamily. "They speak in the fire, in the way it dances. I can hear them now." Benji took a slow step back. "I think we need to put the fire out, now." Travis grabbed a bottle of water and stepped toward the fire ring. Before he could pour, Lena screamed. Not a cry of pain, but rage. "No!" She lunged, knocking the bottle from his hands. It bounced into the flames with a sharp hiss, but the fire didn't even flicker. Omar grabbed her by the shoulders and pulled her back. "Enough! We're done here!" But Lena clawed at his arms, kicking and shrieking like something feral. "They'll punish us! You don't get to erase them again!" "What is she talking about?" Marcy whispered, frozen. Jess knelt by the fire pit. Her eyes scanned the symbols, now glowing bright orange. They weren't just decorative. They were letters. Old, twisted. Names. "I think we're standing on a burial site," she said. "Campfire over a mass grave," Omar muttered. "Of course we are." Benji turned his camera back on, hands shaking. "I thought I saw something rise from the ashes last night," he said, "when no one was looking. Like a face forming in the coals." "Why the hell didn't you say something?" Travis snapped. Benji's voice trembled. "Because it looked like me." The wind shifted. Not natural. It came from below. A rush of air burst from the fire pit. Black smoke that didn't rise, but spilled outward like oil, hugging the ground. Everyone backed away, coughing. Except Lena. She dropped to her knees beside the fire and opened her arms like a supplicant. "They're coming." The smoke swirled faster, rising around her. Shapes moved in it, arms, mouths, bone-white eyes. "Lena, get up!" Jess screamed. But Lena just smiled. "They remember me now." The smoke slammed into her. Her body went stiff, head thrown back, fingers outstretched. Her eyes rolled upward, and her mouth fell open. And then she burned. Instantly. No ignition, no warning. A column of fire erupted from the pit, swallowing her whole. The scream that came out wasn't Lena's, it was dozens of voices screaming through her. She didn't fall, she didn't crumble, she just vanished into the flame, leaving only blackened footprints and a swirl of ash that rose in slow spirals. Then the fire went still. No one spoke for almost a full minute. Omar was the first to move. He grabbed the nearest tent bag and began stuffing gear inside. "We're leaving, right now." "But the trail," Marcy stammered. "Forget the trail. We pick a direction and go." Jess grabbed her pack, barely latching the zipper. Benji stood frozen, camera hanging from his hand, still recording. "Lena's dead," he said softly. She burned like paper, and it didn't even touch the ground." Travis wasn't moving. He stared into the fire. The flames were lower now, and they moved strangely. Not with the breeze, not with oxygen. They flickered in patterns, like hand signing, like mouths speaking words no one could hear. Travis murmured, "It's not a fire. It's a gate." Marcy snapped, "Then let's close it." She grabbed a shovel and heaved dirt into the pit. The fire hissed and screamed. The sound rose not from the pit, but from the trees. The forest cried out all around them, a long, furious moan like wind through hollow skulls. The dirt caught fire as it hit the coals, burned dirt. Marcy dropped the shovel and stumbled backward. "The ground's wrong," she whispered. "It's not soil, it's ash." Jess picked up a handful near the edge of the clearing. It was fine, too fine, like human remains, hundreds of years' worth. She looked at the base of one of the leaning trees. Embedded in the roots was a sliver of bone, a jawbone, still wrapped in a blackened scrap of cloth. They ran, north, away from the clearing, away from the fire that wouldn't die. The forest fought them. Branches snagged at their sleeves, roots tripped their boots. The air grew thick and heavy, full of sparks and heat. The sun was gone. Smoke blotted the sky like a storm. As they ran, the sounds followed. Footsteps behind them, whispers in the trees. "Come back. Finish the fire. Finish the ritual." After an hour they stopped, completely lost. Jess dropped to her knees and dug her hands into the dirt. "None of this is real," she whispered. "It's looping." "What?" Omar asked, pacing in a panic. "I carved a mark in this tree earlier today. Look." She pointed to a twisted pine, carved into the bark, her initials, fresh and clean. "But we ran a full hour." "We didn't move at all," Benji said. They were trapped. Not in the woods, in the memory of the woods, in the residue of what happened here. Travis sat on a rock, dazed. "We're just fuel." "What?" Marcy asked. "We're fuel for it," he said. "The fire needs stories, souls. It was built over forgotten bodies, burned, hidden, erased, and now we're the kindling." "No," Jess said. "No, we get out. There has to be a way." Omar looked around, then up. "The smoke's thicker now. If we don't move, we'll suffocate." "We already did," Benji said quietly. They turned. He was staring at the camera screen. Playback. The last 10 minutes. No audio, just footage of them arguing, running, stopping. And in the background, at every step, Lena, watching, just beyond the trees, her eyes black, her skin glowing faintly like an ember. She never blinked. She never moved. She was just there. Jess grabbed the camera and smashed it against a rock. "No more recording, no more watching." "But they already saw," Benji said. "They see everything." Then, a sound like splitting timber. The fire was rising again. Somehow, they could hear it, even from miles or feet away. crackling, whispers, footsteps. "Finish the fire," the forest said. "Join us in ash." The fire howled from across the woods, not wind, a scream, long, mournful, and layered, as if a dozen voices were screaming through the same throat. Travis stumbled back from the sound, hands clamped over his ears. "They're calling the rest," he said, "all of them." Marcy grabbed his arm. "All of who?" "The forgotten." Omar looked around. "We keep moving. They can't be everywhere." But Jess was staring at the ground. The dirt between the roots was changing color, turning from brown to charcoal gray. Her fingers dug into the soil, pulling up a handful. Still warm, still smoking. "Do you smell that?" she asked. Benji nodded. Like a crematorium." Then he looked up and froze. Figures stood in the woods around them. Not Lena, not the woman Benji had seen the night before. New ones. Men in scorched uniforms, women in dresses turned to ash, children missing their faces. All watching, all silent. "Don't move," Jess whispered. "They're not attacking. They're remembering." Marcy backed away slowly. "What does that mean?" "It means they're reliving it," Jess said, not looking away. "Their deaths. The fire. All of it." And then, like a switch had been flipped, they moved. Not forward, not toward the campers, but into each other. They collapsed into one another like smoke blending with smoke until the forest itself seemed to warp. Shapes flickered in and out of the trees, faces stretched across trunks, limbs twisted from roots. "Go," Omar said, pulling Jess by the wrist. "Run now." They sprinted through the thickets, dodging low-hanging branches and clawing brush. The trees leaned closer than before. The wind was against them, pushing, resisting, like the forest was trying to contain them. Benji tripped. He hit the ground hard, gasping, his camera bag flung into the brush. When he reached to grab it, a hand reached out of the soil and grabbed his wrist. He screamed. Jess turned and doubled back, driving her boot into the loose dirt around the hand. The fingers cracked and crumbled like dry twigs. She hauled Benji to his feet. "Don't stop again." Benji nodded, white-faced, barely able to speak. "I felt cold. Not like ice, like I was somewhere else, just for a second. Underneath." They found the clearing again. The fire still burned, but now it had grown. Wider, brighter, and taller than a man. The flames no longer danced. They rose. Straight columns. No flicker. And the symbols around the stone circle had changed. Jess stared, chest heaving. "It's no longer just names." "Then what are they?" Travis asked. "Commands." The words glowed now, clearer than ever. The stones pulsed with every breath the fire took. "Let them burn. Feed the earth. Return the voice." Omar dropped to his knees, gasping. I can't breathe." Smoke was seeping up from beneath the moss, coiling in slow spirals around their feet. Benji pointed across the clearing. "Where's Marcy?" She wasn't behind them. They found her a few minutes later, not far, at the edge of the old fire ring. She stood perfectly still, facing the flames. Her eyes were wide and empty. Her mouth hung open, and something inside her chest glowed. "Marcy?" Jess called softly. No reaction. Travis stepped closer. As he neared her, the fire flared, just a flicker. Marcy giggled, but it wasn't her voice. It was a child's laugh. And then she turned. Her mouth was full of ash, not coated, filled, packed into her cheeks like cotton, spilling from the corners like smoke, and her eyes burned with dull orange light. She raised her hand. The skin on her palm peeled back like paper, revealing charred black bone beneath. Benji backed away. "Oh, God," he whispered. She's one of them." "No," Jess said. "She's something new." Marcy stepped toward them. The air around her shimmered, bending like heat waves. The fire behind her crackled once and whispered, "Feed her." Travis yelled, charging. He tackled her hard, driving her to the ground. Ash exploded from her chest on impact, coating him in thick soot. She screamed, not from pain, but rage. The fire lashed out. A tendril of flame jumped from the pit and grabbed Travis by the ankle. He shrieked as the fire climbed him, burning through his jeans, eating upward. Omar lunged and tackled him, rolling them both across the dirt. The fire detached, leaving deep black burns. Travis screamed again, his calf charred through. You could see bone. Marcy stood. Ash poured from her eyes now, twin trails of smoke. She said one word, "Return." And then she shattered. Not burned, shattered. Her body broke into chunks of blackened charcoal and blew away in a sudden gust of wind. Just like that, she was gone. No one spoke. The wind died. The fire calmed, but the whispering didn't stop. Benji dropped to his knees. "We're not getting out." Jess stared at the pit. "We never were." Omar bandaged Travis's leg, badly but enough to stop the bleeding. They had water, a bit of food, but no direction, and the spirits were still watching. Sometimes from a distance, sometimes just behind the smoke. By nightfall, the fire had begun speaking, not just whispering, not just mimicking, speaking. Low, inhuman, like molten gravel dragging across stone. "The fire remembers. You are the smoke of what was denied. Finish the circle, burn the silence." They didn't sleep. They didn't try. Benji took the first watch, if you could call sitting motionless and staring into the dark, watching. Omar dozed but kept a knife in his hand. Travis drifted in and out of consciousness, fevered from the burn. Jess stared at the fire, then at the ground. The ash had spread, thin but constant, like snowfall made of the forgotten. "Jess," Benji said suddenly, "why are we still here?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, why haven't we left? I mean, seriously, we ran, but somehow we're back, every time. We're not just trapped." She looked at him. "We're being kept." The ground shook, only slightly, just once.
A heartbeat. Omar stood. The wind picked up. The fire grew. A new shape rose from the pit. Not flames. A hand. Blackened, long, twisted. It reached toward the sky, dragging itself upward. Not smoke, not ash. Something rising. A body. But it wasn't human. Not anymore. The hand kept rising. Blackened bone, sinew of fire and ash, clawed fingers stretching toward the sky like a question no one dared answer. As it pulled free from the pit, more came behind, elbows, ribs, a shoulder, until it became clear. This wasn't a body. It was bodies, fused. A tangled, writhing mass of scorched limbs, faceless heads, spines arched in agony. They crawled over each other in a slow upward climb, as if the pit had given birth to the forgotten dead all at once. Travis let out a soft, rasping breath from where he lay, his burned leg twitching. Benji was frozen beside him, mouth open, silent tears running down his face. Jess whispered, "It's the ashes. They were never scattered, never honored." Omar stood, clutching the last of the lighter fluid in one hand and a flare in the other. "They weren't burned as a funeral," he said. "They were erased." The fire flared in agreement, sending sparks into the air that spiraled upward like souls escaping. A voice not from the fire, but through it, spoke again. "Finish what they tried to forget. Let us burn the silence." Jess stepped forward. The figures in the trees, hundreds now, watched silently. Some were children. Some had no faces. Some bled eternally from slit throats, stomachs, shattered skulls. They lined the clearing like spectators waiting for judgment. Jess knelt by the fire pit, staring into the flame. "I think I understand now." Benji shook his head. "What are you talking about?" "They weren't buried here to be remembered. They were dumped here, murdered, burned without names, without rituals, without permission. This ground isn't cursed, it's raging." Omar nodded slowly. "This fire, it's not the enemy, it's the voice of the dead." Jess looked at the writhing mass of corpses rising from the pit. "And if we don't finish what was started the right way, they'll finish it for us," Omar said grimly. Travis groaned, his skin pale and clammy. "Leave me," he said. "You can't carry me." "No," Jess snapped. "We're not leaving anyone behind." But even as she said it, she could see it in his eyes. He knew. Benji sat beside him, shaking.
Omar leaned down and whispered something to Travis, then handed him the flare. "Tell me the truth," Jess said as they gathered the remaining gear.
Benji lit a second flare. "What truth? You said you saw something in the ashes, before Lena." He hesitated. "I saw myself, but it wasn't me. It smiled. It reached for me. I didn't tell you because I thought I was going insane." "You weren't," she said. "You were being chosen." He looked at her. "Chosen for what?" She didn't answer, because the fire already had. The plan was simple. Create a funeral, a true one, for the dead, not the living. They piled stones in a circle, arranged their gear into an altar, food, clothes, bits of ash-streaked fabric. Omar recited words, not religious, but reverent. Benji read the names they could make out on the stones, half-formed, burned away, guessed from symbols. Jess poured the last of their water onto the ground. Travis crawled toward the fire pit, flare in hand. As he reached it, he turned and met Jess's eyes. "I hope this means something," he said. Then he plunged the flare into the center of the fire. The ground shook, not a tremor, a reaction. The flames turned white-hot, rising in a column so bright they had to turn away. The writhing corpse mass shrieked as it was pulled back into the pit, limbs snapping, mouths open in silent agony. But it wasn't rage now. It was release. Above, the smoke spiraled into a funnel, rising past the trees, punching through the cloud cover. And for the first time since they'd arrived, stars appeared. When the fire died, Travis was gone. No remains, no ash, just a shallow handprint in the soot. The spirits watched them, silent, waiting. Jess stepped to the center of the circle. She lifted the last piece of stone, charred and inscribed, and placed it on the altar. "I remember you," she said. "I remember you." Benji echoed her. Omar, too. "I remember you." The wind shifted, soft, grateful. The spirits turned, one by one, and walked back into the trees. No fanfare, no screams, just fading, until even that was gone. They hiked out at dawn. This time, the trail was clear. The sky was blue. Birds chirped, like nothing had happened. Like they hadn't just helped put 100 souls to rest. Like their friend hadn't offered himself to the flame. 3 weeks later, Jess sat at a small-town library, flipping through scanned microfilm. She found it. October 1912. Local sanitarium accused of burning unclaimed bodies in mass grave to cover disease outbreak. No names recorded, no prosecutions. Location? 5 miles outside what is now Elk Creek State Forest. Her fingers trembled. "Erased," she whispered, until the fire called for them again. 1 year later, Benji never went camping again. He started a small blog called Names in Ash, dedicated to researching forgotten grave sites and giving them visibility. He never mentioned the fire. He never mentioned Lena or Marcy or Travis. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, he'd wake up sweating, and the whisper would still be there. Just one phrase. "We remember you too."
Thank you for listening to this story. Your support means a lot and helps keep these tales coming. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to subscribe and follow for more dark and immersive stories just like this one. New horrors await. Don't miss what's coming next.